Yeah, so thanks for joining us here. I guess I thought I'd start, since it's been a few months since Facebook started integrating with all these music services, and it seems like there's been all kinds of action. I mean, if you look at your Facebook feed these days, it's a lot different than before this happened, and it seems like a pretty powerful way for people to get introduced into these services. So I thought I would just ask the group in general, what has the impact been of this this socialization of music? Socialization, that's not really the right word in that context, but you know what I mean. How big a deal is this? Any numbers you can share or trends?
I can kick it off and start at a higher level. So yeah, I mean, at our F8 conference last year, our developers conference, we launched with about 12 different music services in publishing into the Open Graph. They spanned, I think, 8 different countries, and since then, I mean, it's been a couple of months now. We're now up to over 20 music services that span over 50 different countries. I think about 5 billion songs publicly we've said have been shared via Facebook so far, and we're excited about the traction and the way things are going right now.
Nice. What about the services?
Yeah, so we were one of the launch partners back in September at F8. I think we've probably brought on close to 1 million people now, in the, let's say, 800,000 to 1 million range, from brand new people from Facebook to MOG who have entered into our the free version of our service. And I think we average probably about 5,000 to 6,000 new people every day now coming in from Facebook. And we're US only. So.
Yeah, that's, I think there are 300 million people in this country, and some of them don't listen to music at all, so that's a huge number.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to talk about Facebook's impact on their situation?
So it's kind of hard with Turntable to know directly, because since from day one we've had Facebook as the way to log in, and we haven't tried to really try and figure out a way to filter out what traffic's coming through that and what's the referral from publishing to the ticker and doing all the custom graph stuff. But we were really excited to just basically have that integration happen, where all of the actions that were happening within Turntable were then being reflected in Facebook. It was just another path that people could find Turntable from their friends. Our original launch was basically centered around that idea that if you log in and then you tell your friends that you're on Turntable, you basically give them access to Turntable as well. Nobody else can get access unless you were friends of whoever signed in. So I don't know the specific numbers. I haven't tried to pull them out, but it's definitely been, from the beginning, Facebook's been pretty integral in our sign-in and launch process.
Okay, and Rachna, we were talking a little bit about, SiriusXM's not a pure play internet broadcaster, obviously, by definition, so the implications of social music are slightly different, but I was wondering if you could talk about what that approach might look like, whatever you can tell us.
Sure, so we have 22 million subscribers in the US. And we've acquired the majority of those through our partnerships with the auto industry. I think it's important to note for us, we're not a music service, we're really a radio service. So a lot of our content is talk, sports, news. We spend a lot of money with Howard and MLB and sports rights and other content that's exclusive and premium for our subscribers. So also we have a lot of programming talent, so all of our channels, we have about 140 channels, are curated, so it's kind of a linear listening experience right now. We're working through how we may evolve that. So we're also a premium service, so we don't have a persistent freemium tier. So we can't have somebody listening to a track and then refer them over to that song because it may be something else on that radio channel at that time. So with 22 million subscribers, we're going to make sure we're quite thoughtful about what that Facebook, the deeper Facebook integration is. Obviously, we have our channel pages and a lot of fans on all those channel pages, and we're doing some innovative things there. But in terms of a deeper, persistent experience, we're still kind of working through what the right thing is for our subscribers.
Rachna knows that I've shared this with her. My ultimate goal for MOG is that when Howard comes out of his contract, that I will be able to outbid Sirius pay him, you know, $500 million for his next contract. So
Yeah, so
we're gonna have it.
that'll be great.
That'll be an interesting one. Can't wait to hear about that. So where's the action? I mean, when I look at my Facebook, I see music happening all over the place now. Whether it's the chance to listen in real time or check out what my friends are listening to. Where's most of the action? Is it the ticker or is it the music timeline section, the music section of the timeline?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different places, right? So hopefully if you were to look at Facebook even 7 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, music was a big part of the discussion. Right? For years, people have been scraping links, been dropping into the Facebook newsfeed, they've been updating their status messages with lyrics, so on and so forth. Music has always been kind of a part of Facebook and the discussion that people like to have. If anything, I think the step last year at F8 was literally to kind of raise that experience and make sure that we were plugging in and having a good environment for folks like the mods of the world, for the turntables of the world, to plug into an ecosystem and take advantage of that and still like facilitate that conversation that was happening around music. But yeah, I mean, you will see music getting aggregated in the newsfeed, right? That's kind of the primary place where people look on Facebook, they go and discover music new. Because of course the real-time ticker, where I can see kind of what my friends are consuming on a real-time basis and hopefully hop into the experience with them. One of the things that I like, and I think that we're working on, hopefully we'll really nail, is if you were to come to my timeline, drop into my music timeline, right? And you understand, you know, over the last month, these are like the 5 artists that I've listened to. So these are the songs that I've been playing on repeat. You know, it kind of exposes you in a way. You know, people will find out that although I have gone around and liked Jay-Z and Drake and all the cool, sexy artists out there, and you go to my timeline, you see that I've actually been listening to Rihanna or whomever it may be. But nonetheless, I think that's a part of my identity, and people understanding that would be a good part of their identity. So those are kind of the 3 big buckets I typically go and discover music. There's also kind of the music dashboard too, which is, you know, I would say a lot of consumers haven't yet found or discovered, but off on the left-hand rail of kind of your music, of your homepage, you can go and you can click on a button that says music, and essentially curates that newsfeed section to be a pure music play for you.
Nice. Yeah, I do some listening with MOG on the Sonos with my daughter. I have like a 10-month-old. I'm forcing her to listen to all my old jams from when I was a kid. You know, Tubby the Tuba, you know, some Danny Kaye stuff, and then that ends up in my feed, and people who don't know I have a kid probably think I'm really freaky or something. I don't know.
We really advise you buying her own subscription instead of copying her subscription.
This is a good point. I mean, I think a lot of, I think Apple's sort of dirty secret for a while was that a lot of the iTunes sales would happen, you know, during the holidays in January. People buy their kid an iPod. They're like, well, I want this kid to be an upstanding, you know, citizen. So here's $20 for the store. And I think you know, a lot of people don't buy downloads with their own money. So, I mean, I guess let's turn this into a question. What kind of opportunities are there to do services that way? You know, like should I do that? Like, what? I guess, is that how I would stop putting my Tubby the Tuba stuff onto my Facebook? Is that my motivation?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Facebook does offer the ability to edit that implicitly shared data, so you can go in and delete those tracks that embarrass you.
Nice. So now I can listen to Rhythm of the Night as much as I want to.
Yes.
And on MOG, you can turn sharing on and off. Unfortunately, things like Sonos don't build that kind of functionality into the devices themselves.
Right.
So it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Right. Well, they've got their API going. Maybe that'll get solved eventually. So here's an interesting thing in terms of the cultural implications. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the technology, but you know, somebody within the industry who's not on this panel brought up this idea to me that I found really interesting, that we might actually see different types of music becoming popular, because when you're buying a CD or a download, you have to make that decision once, and now the way to really get paid with these services is to have people listen over and over and over again. So, you know, do we think that this is actually going to change the culture? We'll see less, you know, one-hit wonders and more sort of career artists, more R&D from the R&D, whatever it is, A&R, R&D, alphabet soup from the labels. You know, in terms of developing artists' careers to the point where people want to listen to them for a decade instead of for a week. So, do we think that's going to happen? And B, is it happening? Are we seeing any kinds of differences in the types of things that are getting popular in these services?
Well, you can't get away with padding a CD with the fluff and have that one song that people actually want to buy, and you're getting that song for $16. Since Apple was basically the one to cut that up and say you're a la carte there. I think that the way that most services are going now is towards that subscription model that you're seeing over and over again on, well, if I get a smaller amount per month, which it might be, I think the big question is that more than I would normally spend on buying CDs when you average that out. You know, that's what gets the record industry pretty excited. Also, you know, with like turntable, there's the excitement around are there other ways to monetize music and get it away from here's a CD and it has all this fluff and has that one song that I really want.
That's a really interesting question, because we pay out to the labels out of the subscriptions based on frequency of plays. And historically, it's always been you buy the CD once and the artist gets the money, and regardless of the number of times you play it, you're getting that one finite set kind of dollar amount. Even with iTunes, in the singles world, you're getting the 99 cents, and you know, now we pay out based on number of plays. So conceptually, a song that gets played a lot makes more money than a song that doesn't, and it does have cultural implications. I certainly don't think it's changed anything yet. I think it's just kind of a little too new, and subscription services out of a total piece of the pie is just still too small. But if you believe, which I do, that subscription services will become kind of the standard way people consume music, you would think that it would lean artists more towards building songs that are sustainable and have kind of the ability to generate revenue for the long haul than like the pop song that is easily digestible and gets consumed a lot and then tossed in the garbage.
This is true. I mean, I guess 10 million plays in a week is the same as 10 million plays over time, but for sure, I mean, I agree that we have to see some kind of shift with it because the economics are there. I mean, there's real motivation now to have more of a sustainable career than just make a big splash.
Yeah, you think like the AR person at the record label would start looking at artists from a different view.
Right, and maybe developing them, which is what we were hearing wasn't happening quite so much anymore. You know? How about on Saturday? I was going to say.
The counter view, I was just going to say that you're hearing a lot now is some of the established artists like Adele and Coldplay are still not comfortable with the freemium tier of some of these services. I don't know, David, if you're having the same challenges. Some of the other services where they're comfortable in the paid tier, putting their content, but not in the free tier, and there seems to be a little bit of a standoff right now. Yeah. Because if they don't put stuff in the free tier, then a lot of artists may say, okay, I don't want my content in the free tier because the economics don't feel like they're working.
Right. Ironically, though, you know, for some of the artists that have been doing this, I know El Camino from the Black Keys was held. The last Red Hot Chili Peppers were held. Those records ended up selling really poorly. And so one could argue that had they not held, those records could have been doing better.
The other thing with actually owning CDs is when I own that CD, it's mine, right? Like I know I always have that song, and I think one of the things that's paramount is we have to make the user experience fantastic and better and be just as good as that experience as I own this music. So when we have artists that come in and out of, wait a minute, we don't want our music, or we do or we don't, then all of a sudden all of those tracks that I've had in MOG or Spotify or wherever else, they just disappear from my catalog. And even though I said I'd like to keep track of this track, and it magically disappears, and whether it's said or not, it's a big deal, because if I own that CD, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I personally wrote a story for Wired a while ago called "Why We Need One Big Database," so that if I decide like I'm going to stop with my iTunes, I'm going to go to MOG, you know, that could be just a click of a button. I know you guys actually have a new feature, the Moggles. It's kind of mind blowing. Do you want to explain what that?
We have a feature called Moggles, where you could take a picture of an album cover, and we will find that album and add it to your collection, or let you just play it. works incredibly well. I mean, it even works on a kind of low resolution image that you find on your computer screen, so you could go to Amazon.com and shoot the picture and add it to your collection.
That's pretty neat. So that's physical format to a subscription in one tap, which is pretty solid. I guess this is a question more for Facebook, for eMay. How do you deal with, if somebody posts a track on, say, Turntable and somebody else wants to hear it on MOG? What are the complexities, or is that something that people want, or is that just like something that I think about and doesn't apply? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, no. Even when we launched the platform, that was one of the the conflicts that we had, right? Optimizing the experience for the developers out there, the turntables and the logs, who want that 1 million new folks coming over to their ecosystem and participating in what they're doing, versus also optimizing for the user experience, which is you, right? On your end, you see a whole bunch of your friends listening on XYZ service, but you listen on ABC service. Can you switch over and make that happen? So we actually, right now, if you were to click on the play button into Facebook, if you saw Dave is listening to the Black Keys on MOG, you actually have an opportunity to go and switch over to XYZ service if you've already authenticated and used that service, right? So us, Facebook, we're trying to be smart about that, right? We understand that you have a favorite service that you've already authenticated via Facebook, so we're presenting you with that opportunity to switch over and listen to it in your service, if we've been smart enough about managing.
Right, that could be the tough part. So when I was at Wired, before I started this Evolver.fm thing, I gotta say the name at least once during this panel. So we used to, the thing that happens when you're doing journalism these days is every once in a while you get a story that blows up, and it goes everywhere, and you get all these new people, all these new unique visitors coming to your site, which is great. But we had this term for them, which was tourists. They're not moving to your town. They're like, sweet, that story was awesome. Like, see you later. So I feel like that sort of is now probably happening with music services a bit. I mean, you have this chance to get new users exposed to your service. I was wondering, what are the techniques for turning those tourists into residents? Are there any tricks of the trade? I know it's been a few months since this became like a mainstream thing, but what have you guys learned so far?
I mean, it's where most of the focus of my company is once somebody comes to the site for the first time from Facebook, how to turn them into a repeat visitor. We're doing a lot of things. I mean, one thing we do to really improve the cold start functionality for that first-time visitor, we through the Facebook API are grabbing your artist likes. So when you come to MOG for the first time from Facebook, we can really personalize the experience based on the artists that we know you've already liked on Facebook. And we leverage those artists as seeds to generate a whole list of personalized music for you. It blows people's minds when they come to MOG for the first time, and there's a section called Just For You, and they're like, how did they know I'm into all this music? We're grabbing the artist likes. We have our own proprietary algorithms. We're expanding beyond that to find similar artists based on those artist seeds that you liked on Facebook. So things like that. Obviously, leveraging email from Facebook to do kind of direct-to-consumer email campaigns. Lots of stuff. That's a good answer.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this one?
I'd say, SiriusXM, we're again a little bit different. We don't have a freemium model. Our trials are really around time-based, so most of our, we're installed in about 67, mid-60 percentile of all cars, US light vehicles, so consumer cars in the US, and through our deep relationships, and most of those folks get a 90-day free trial. And I mean, I think what was impressive for me when I joined was that the conversion rate from trial, a 90-day trial, which is all the bells and whistles, versus a tier of trial, is around between 44 and 46%. So nearly half of the people that try it. And again, I think it's the music component, sure, but it's also the talk, sports, news, exclusive, it's curated, it's really easy to use in the car. You can turn it on and set 5 presets and you're away and running. I think that's been really, really successful for us. So because we have a whole bucket of content that's exclusive and premium for us, we don't want to. We'd rather focus on the time-based trial and let everybody trial the bells and whistles, as opposed to a kind of persistent free tier, have the struggle of moving people from free to paid. Our struggle is You know, we were lucky enough to have 22 million subscribers. We want to do everything we can to keep them happy and offer them good features and services, including, you know, evolving our IP offering, which we're doing.
So, yeah, I mean, I've had definitely very direct experiences with having a lot of traffic come in one fell swoop from a lot of coverage when we initially launched, and that actually registers as this massive spike in traffic. And the best thing you can do is that's your time to say, this is why you should hang out here. There's just a percentage that want to see what's going on. There's a percentage that they're happy with whatever services they use. And then there's a percentage that are like, you know, I'll give it a shot. And you have you know, a few seconds to wow them. If your page takes a little too long to load, they'll say, whatever, forget it, and they close the tab, and then that's it. And so no matter what you do, you're only going to keep a certain percentage and a small percentage, you know, 10%, 20%, whatever it might be, of all that traffic that comes to you. And the best thing you can do is just put your best foot forward, make sure everything's working properly, and give them that product experience that's just amazing, and they're like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. It's a problem that not only music folks are dealing with right now, but anyone who plugs into the Facebook ecosystem is dealing with. Right? Facebook does a really, really good job of driving developers a massive amount of traffic, right? So turning those brand new, fresh users into engaged users and retained users is something that any developers are going to deal with. I think the nice thing about it is, A, you guys get free distribution, more or less, of this brand new flood of new users. But then on top of that, now, as you hear Billy and you hear Ahmed and you hear Dave talking about, they're hyper-focused on that product experience, right? When I land on that MOG experience, are they going to personalize it for me? When I land on that turntable experience, are they going to do something unique and special for me? Because as a Facebook user, I'm expecting a social and personalized experience, right? So now the user's actually winning too as well, because these guys are working extra hard to make sure that that experience is just awesome, right? I also think about, there are countries out there that are literally built off of tourism dollars, right? Sure. Their GDP is over 50% of it is due to tourists. So I'm curious to see if there's going to be developers out there, be it in music, be it in video, be it in whatever it is, that can find a way to just live a healthy life off of pure tourist traffic. It'll be interesting to see.
Sure, and that would be great for Facebook, and if that's just the interface into all the stuff, that'd be nice. So, but it sounds like the lesson is, be nice to the tourists and make sure their hotel room is set up the way they like it, and hope for the best.
It's got to be easy and seamless and frictionless. And we've done user testing. It's amazing. Some people don't even necessarily know that they're off Facebook and on this new thing. Like, they don't know they're at mod.com and that experience happened there, and if they want that experience again, they need to go back tomorrow and type in that URL. It's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, these are the people that enter domain names in the Google search bar. Yeah. So you brought up an interesting thing, though, a way to sort of to torture this metaphor a little more, to outfit the hotel room for the tourists was the Facebook likes. And I think for the developers in the room, something that a lot of people are wondering about is what other data can you get? Like if your turntable, can you say like, well, let's look at the MOG data and set things up, or vice versa? Where's that line, and how do developers get access to that kind of data?
So I think it's always been our position that this is the user's data, right? So that's first and foremost to understand. When I'm connecting and saying, hey, MOG or turntable or whomever it may be, I'm giving you my identity and my Facebook, data. I'm making that kind of handshake agreement with the MOG experience and saying, this is still my data at the end of the day. So if I choose to go and take it elsewhere and take it to a news site who's all of a sudden going to read the things that I've been listening to and personalize my news experience or my shopping experience or my television experience based off of that data, I have the kind of the personal free will to kind of so choose and do that. So right now, a lot of people right now are just leveraging likes. So there's a Facebook command where you can say, hey, can you have the user's likes? But you can go a step further and say, can I have what you're listening to, what you're watching, and any custom action that is now kind of being pumped into the ecosystem. Yeah.
So it's up to the user.
It's up to the user, yeah. It's ultimately up to the user, but nonetheless, I'm excited because I think it does empower folks to do some interesting things. So in the music space, for example, Vivo just launched, Facebook Connect integration this past Friday, a new kind of brand new Vivo experience. Someone could actually, Dave could actually go and say, hey, Ime, what are you watching on Vivo? Because that's important to us. It's high signal to us. We are going to now curate a playlist based off of what you've been watching, or what you've been reading, or what pins you've been doing on Pinterest. Like, you know, the developers now have a whole bunch of data they can do some interesting stuff with.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point to go, you know, going outside of music services and back. I mean, I've had this idea for a while that, you know, my like dream job, although I kind of already have it, would be, you know, figuring out music that goes with news articles. Like if I'm reading, we did a playlist, you know, about for the hurricane, you know, when that was in the news, like songs that have hurricanes in them, and so it'd be great if I could be reading, you know, I guess the Washington Post does a pretty generous Facebook integration. You know, if I'm reading a story on there, can I be recommended a MOG playlist or a turntable room that like goes, or a Sirius XM, you know, station that goes with that story, and it would just play like while I'm reading a story. I would totally go for that.
You want news soundtracks.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I'm using my eyes for this already, but you know, what am I going to listen to?
Just resolve everyone to the Benny Hill show.
Right, that sax song. Right. So the car, a lot of, or actually before we get to the car, the stuff we're currently talking about is on, I feel like it's mainly on the web. Can we talk about how mobile all this stuff is, or how mobile will it be? I mean, or am I even right in thinking that this is mostly a web phenomenon right now?
We just relaunched our iPhone app. It's been completely overhauled, and it's really nice. And I don't have the specific numbers, but it's it's almost to what our web traffic is right now, as far as how many people are tuning in and listening via mobile. And I mean, Facebook, it's you guys have also mentioned several times that mobile is turning into the majority of how people are actually consuming Facebook, and I think the same thing's happening with music. People want it around. I mean, it's what made Pandora explode when they came out with their mobile app. So it's a big part of our strategy going forward, and it's proven that if you, it's almost like it was almost a learning experience that we quickly made our first version, and it just kind of worked, but it crashed every now and again, and people were just like, it's all right. But then once we cleaned that up, it was like 10x the number of people that were using it before. So as long as it's kind of reinforcing that thing of that I was saying before, of just giving that amazing user experience, making sure everything is nice. Your hotel room analogy, make sure, you know, sheets are clean and everything's looking good, and if you can personalize that experience as best as possible. And then the fact that you can do that in your car, have it in your car, you can have it wherever you are, you can have it while you're running. People are listening to turntable FM rooms when they're jogging around, and that's actually that's pretty cool, because all of a sudden you have people all around the U.S. Playing your soundtrack for your jog, and I just think that's where things are trending towards.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to carry around, you know, millions of songs from MOG, or you know, a bunch of rooms in your pocket is kind of a crazy concept. But specifically with the social stuff that we're talking about today, I mean, you know, Facebook's app, which I'm more addicted to than I should really admit, there's no ticker. You know, in terms of the music stuff, I feel like the social part hasn't totally taken off there the way it has on the web. I mean, is that something that's going to happen, or do we know what that might look like?
So right now you'll have music stories showing up in your Facebook news. One of the funny anecdotes I heard recently was someone's like, you know, the right-hand rail on the mobile device, the ticker's not there,
right.
You know, ads aren't there. Like, the right-hand rail on the mobile device is your thumb. Right?
Okay.
There's not much real estate to do there, but it all happens still in the newsfeed. So you'll see a mobile story, it'll pop up. If you click on it, it'll actually do a deep linking into the MOG application.
Yeah, we've now got that seamlessly working. The challenge for us is we don't have a free tier yet on mobile.
Right.
Our freemium and our free play is on web, but we hope that will change soon. So when you're a subscriber and you're plugged into our platform and you're on Facebook, the link's on. So hope to have a free mobile component soon.
All right, breaking some news here. All right, so let's
Yeah,
move.
my PR person's getting nervous. We're going to launch that story separately.
It's, I mean, you know, the future could be tomorrow, could be here. Some wiggle room there. So let's talk about the car. I mean, I think there's some challenges. It sounds like challenges that are going to be worked out pretty soon in terms of mobile and social and music, although I kind of hate when people use social as a noun, but I just did it. Oh well. So social and music and the car. You know, is there a way to do this without driving into a wall? What's this going to feel like? Maybe SiriusXM has some ideas too.
I mean, you know, we have obviously driven a lot of our success through our relationship with the auto manufacturers. We have launched our internet service, you know, on smartphones and a desktop player. I think there are interesting things that some of the auto guys are doing, pulling your, you know, places that friends have checked into when you're driving around. I think there's, you know, very rigorous safety and security regulations state by state that need to be thought through, and I think deep integration in the dashboard takes quite some time. You're talking to some of the most progressive auto companies, and you're talking about model year 2015, 2016. So obviously you can take your phone into the car, and everyone can do that today, but you know, deep, smart integration that's really easy to use. You know, we've been doing it for 11 years, and it takes time to do it well.
Well, my big idea, because I'm a journalist who doesn't have to actually do any of this stuff, and you know, it's all easy when you're just writing about it fictionally, sort of. But I think we need a car API, like a dashboard open API with just, you know, fast forward, pause, next playlist, share to Facebook. I mean, this should be standardized. You shouldn't have to have a meeting with every single manufacturer and talk about each model's dashboard for 3 years later. I mean, wouldn't that be the thing that we need to?
We just launched the first ever on-demand service in a car with BMW as our partner. So you can now buy a new BMW or Mini and get MOG built in. And the amount of work we did with them to ensure safety, I mean, it's built into the head unit display, and you're using the joystick or iDrive. It was an eye-opening experience to us. It was, you know, 6 months of development work to ensure kind of safety requirements. So I'm with you. I think things like Siri are incredibly promising when they start to open things like that up with APIs to third-party developers. You know, right now you can use Siri or kind of a voice-to-text conversion on Android on MOG to just enter in an artist or album name, but those commands like play, next, playlist, none of those things work today.
Right.
And they need to.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I saw the MOG integration in the car, I was like, this is great. Like, why can't it be in my car too? You know? And this, I mean, I guess this is something that, you know, for SiriusXM's already integrated, but you're talking about IP streaming and stuff of that nature. So I guess that could help you guys too.
I mean, we have 9 satellites in the sky, right? We spent billions of dollars getting those up there, and we've got one more to come this year. And, you know, I don't know how many people live in New York, but if you try to take your phone in the car and drive around a peak hour, you get data connectivity. I just try walking around there. You've got data connectivity issues, battery life issues, you know, so in the short term, I think it's still challenging. We're doing a lot of work now on how we take our experience out of the car for our subscribers. Again, you know, they're buying into a premium experience, and they want to connect with us outside the car, at home, you know, in all the different use cases. So, you know, we've been doing a lot of work. We'll be launching on demand for a lot of our shows later this year, and again, our version of personalized music. So, but we start with our heritage and our DNA. If it's curated, it's really easy. You know, I even find myself being quite a heavy music user. I look at that search box when I'm on a music service. Sometimes I don't know what I want to listen to, and I don't want to have to think about it. I just want to lean back and have it curated for me, and I think that's where we spend a lot of time and money. Like, you know, somebody thinks about every song or every talk show and either curates it or creates it, you know, at our company.
And ironically, sometimes I use satellite radio, and I'm like, where's the search box? There's no search box here.
Right.
I'd love to see cars first standardize how to connect to your mobile devices. Like, what if I could take my mobile device and put it in like we used to put in cassette tape, right? Like I always know there's a slot that I can just like jam it in, and then I can just start using my phone, because our phones are turning into everything devices. Our entire lives are on our phones. And so if we had a standard way, every single time I rent a car or I'm in another car, there's a different iPod connection, or there's a different just phone connection or whatever else, and I forget the cord because or I just don't even have the cord that I need. So if we could even first get them to agree, how can I connect mobile devices to the car? That would be very powerful, and that would actually lead to a great future where it's not just we need to embed our system into the panel. It's that really is the API, and then anybody can use it through the phone and the phone's API.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just bought a new car stereo from a French company called OCAR, where the iPod is the head unit display.
Oh, really?
And a little periscope comes out where you can swivel it, and it's awesome. You know, I wonder whether the car companies are evolved enough to trust or feel worried about the safety concerns. Not like everyone's not already doing it.
They also all want a leg up over competition, right? There's a lot of car competition, so what's the incentive to standardize across with each other when they're trying to compete and say, we have an edge because we have this, or we have an edge because we have that?
I think the other piece is, I think current estimates this year, there'll be about 14 million new cars. There's about 200 million on the road, used cars, secondary car market, and people are keeping them, I think, on average for 11 years. So there's also there's all the other cars that are on the road. How do we make sure that we're providing an experience in them? We have radios in about 40 million of them, and we do a bunch of things to get people excited about Sirius, like free to air, talking about trials. We'll do weekends where you can turn on your radio, and we pay to get that radio in that car. Let's get people to experience the service for, again, a limited period of time, not a persistent kind of free tier. So I think that's a piece that people forget. The huge market there that's not new cars, but we've been doing a lot of work on how to extend our experience there, and all the data issues of when somebody buys a second-hand car. Who are they? How do you find them? How do you get them excited about radio?
Part of the problem of having the intelligence in the car and not in the iPhone is they get prehistoric so quickly. I mean, you look at any car nav system that was built into a car that's 3 years old, and you're like, oh my God, this is awful. My wife has a built-in kind of GPS unit, but she's got her Android on a suction cup above it, and she uses that car nav because the UI is so much better. And I don't think she's ever figured out the car nav that was native in the car itself.
Yeah,
Wow.
even just data updates of what stores there are and what new restaurants open and close. I have no idea if the cars are actually doing anything to update that in any timely fashion, but not nearly the same as just firing up Yelp or something on your phone and getting reviews and everything else in accurate location.
So I wanted to talk about the real-time listening thing, which ties in a lot of the panelists today. I mean, that's something that happens through Facebook. Subscription services can flip this on and make Billy nervous. And with SiriusXM, you're kind of always listening in real time with other people. And to me, I've had the experience of watching a movie on television with ads, and I have the DVD, and I'll still watch it because there's like something psychologically that I'm not the only one doing that. So to an extent, this is a mainstream activity already. You said you have 22 million subscribers on Sirius. There's terrestrial. There's turntable. But the key things, seems to me, in terms of where progress could be made, is making that more social. I mean, that's kind of the turntable thing. And I've heard, I think Seth mentioned at an event in New York, that that he sees this, that the real challenge isn't converting people who read Wired and Evolver into turntable. It's really the mainstream market. So this is too long of a question, but is this going to be a mainstream thing, either by rolling out real-time listening services digitally, or connecting the people on SiriusXM that are listening to the same channel socially? I guess it's kind of like the channel. There are two ways to approach it, but is this for the mainstream, or is this for people that are at South by Southwest?
I mean, I think it's like asking our concerts for the mainstream, and it sounds like a preposterous thing to propose because we all know that everyone loves going to concerts. We're all going to them nightly here at South by Southwest. We love to listen and experience music together. And there are many different ways you can bring that experience, and I think it's going to come down to implementation. Like we have one take on it, Facebook has another take on it, and there are several other services that have spawned since us that have all other types of random takes on it that change the rules of how it works. The main thing that it's not just you're listening with other people at the same time. It's you're getting some type of social added value from those other people taking turns sharing songs with each other. It's that sharing of information that's really important. However that happens, Facebook's taking the approach of, well, if we get all of your listening habits from as many places as we can give your friends information about you and songs you might like, right? It all leads to the same goal. Let's try and make discovery better. And our method is, well, if we sit a bunch of people in a room and we have them take turns playing songs for each other, and there's this social pressure to play good music because you know that you're impacting the people in the room and you want to make sure you don't get lamed off stage, you're going to play songs that you think people are going to like, and therefore discovery goes way up. And that's really what I think we should all be aiming for. How do we get the discovery at its highest level?
Sure, it makes the music matter more. Something's at stake, I guess.
Right.
Anybody else want?
Yeah, no. I mean, what we launched at FA, let's be sure about this, is that it was a new platform, right? It wasn't necessarily a music-specific platform. It was a new platform, right? There's Netflix plugged in, food spotting plugged in, Pinterest plugged in. I think the reason why you saw a lot of energy around the music space is exactly what Billy was just talking about. Like, music is inherently social. I go to concerts with friends. I go do karaoke with friends. I sing in my car, I call my brother and talk to him about it. You know, music is inherently a social action that people are constantly wanting to have discussions and conversations about. I think I've either heard you say it before, Billy, or maybe Seth say it before. It's like, the power of turntable is, yeah, the music brings the folks there, but then that little right-hand bar where people are there chatting, it's the chatter that keeps the people there, right? Having the discussions, the music just brings people there, but there's conversations that it's all about. And to back to your point, I mean, Billy and I think we talked before FA, and like, he has nothing to worry about when it comes to what Facebook's doing inside its ecosystem. Like, we are never going to be as good at kind of the music experience as the folks sitting across on this side of the table ever will be, because we're not necessarily in the music industry or in this music space, right? Billy is always going to have that joint discovery, you know, shared listening experience, and he'll nail it a lot better than if we try to do it in-house at Facebook ever tried to do. So that's the beauty of being a platform, is that the innovation happens from folks that are really, really smart on this side of the table doing it stuff. Yeah.
You know, I think there are places for social discovery, but I also don't think it's the be-all, end-all, and only form of music discovery. You know, our mantra at MOG is that MOG does the work for you. And so there are lots of social components to it, and we're certainly leveraging social platforms like Facebook for customer acquisition. But you know, there is a lot of value to kind of the man-machine relationship, not just the man-to-man. So if you're on Netflix or Amazon, you know, you're getting recommendations from Amazon and Netflix from them to you, based on purchasing data that they're collecting across all users. And we find that in a lot of instances, that kind of cuts to the chase and gets people directly to something that they want without the additional steps of kind of a social component there. And the research that we've done tells us that people really like that. You know, there are lists on Amazon that are created by users, but a lot of people gravitate to the Amazon recommendation over those lists. And I think Pandora is another good example of a recommendation service that's not inherently social, but there's kind of a man-to-machine relationship where there's a brain in the sky that's doing the work. You click the play button and there's a stream of music that's programmed for you. So I think there's value to both of these things. I can't tell you the incredible amount of music discovered in my life through social components, but I find music in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, just because you're friends with somebody doesn't automatically mean you're going to like their music. I mean, I see horrifying choices made by people that I really like, you know, every day. But I guess there's an opportunity there to sort of flip it upside down and say, like, well, I mean, maybe it's also a correlation where if you do like the same music, then you might be going to be friends. So I think we might see some interesting stuff there, flipping it upside down, because I've got friends that, yeah, I just say, no.
Well, I mean, that was one of our founding principles, that it's not just about your friends. When you go on Turntable and you connect via Facebook, you see what rooms your friends are in, and you can pay attention to them if you want, or you can completely disregard them because you might not agree with their taste in music. And there's still that power of the stranger. Like, I still think that it's okay to talk to strangers, and it's okay to do things with them online. And,
Wow.
Easy.
And so, you know, there's definitely benefit of knowing stuff from your friends, but the fact that Turntable would have failed if it was just see what rooms your friends are in and play music with just your friends. The reason that Turntable has succeeded is it's go into any of these rooms that are centered around usually some type of topic like indie chill, acoustic, or dubstep, and hang out with people that are similar in that way. So once you shift it that way, and then all of a sudden if I see, hey, Ime's hanging out in the dubstep room, now I have that extra connection with Ime, but I'm still centered around dubstep with strangers, which is okay.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is for a pure music service is, you know, your raw ingredients per se, like your 10 to 14 million tracks, everybody has almost the same tools, and then you need to overlay that with curation and what the user experience is like. So I think it's really powerful. Social is a very powerful way to help curate. Again, getting back to there's 14 million songs, but I still don't know what I want to listen to. So the power of referral, or I know, you know, David's listened to this song, I've never heard it before, or this artist. I trust him more than, you know, I trust a stranger maybe, and that helps me connect with that service, either by creating awareness for that service or generating trial, and it just adds a layer of curation. You know, we start the other way around. We have, you know, programmers that curate the whole experience for us, and for us it's thinking through how do we leverage the community of, you know, we have 22 million subscribers, about 2 people per radio, so we've got 44 million listeners. So how do we leverage those?
3 minutes left
our
if I do
roots
that.
of the radio, you know, when you listen to the radio together, how do we leverage that and empower our community? We have, you know, Howard Stern will tweet before, during, and after the show. You know, he would tweet through the movie that he was in, and so, you know, our talent is interacting with the audience in a new way, but also layering in the power of, you know, your social community to help you make sense of those 14 million tracks.
Sure, that makes sense, and I liked David's point about, like, you know, let's not get carried away. This really is about a person listening to music. You know, I know that the social is a massive part of this, but ultimately it's about the music getting to your ears in whichever way makes sense to you. I'm trying to like to wrap it all together type of statement there.
Yeah, if you can make a perfect algorithm that knows exactly what you want to listen to next, of course you don't need all these other things, but we're just not there yet. Pandora says, I'm going to play you a song that has similar beats per minute. I've broken it down to all these dozen factors, and because this other song is very similar to that song, you're gonna like this song. But what happens is people actually start to feel like the music feels a little stale, and you don't get that kind of spur-of-the-moment random song that somebody selects. Like on Turntable, you might be in, like, for example, the dubstep room, and then all of a sudden somebody throws on like a throwback from the 80s, and the whole room goes nuts because they weren't expecting it, and they love it, and it brings back all this nostalgia. And an algorithm just can't do that to as good of a degree as people can.
Great. I think we're at the point of questions, unless anybody has any last-minute thoughts from these microphones.
Music's really weird. You know, these self-feedback mechanisms that auto-program for you, eventually they'll all get stale, and we're such dynamic, kind of changing creatures, and you need like these outside catalysts to pull you out of your comfort zone and get you into something new. You know, you just think about, like, what actually made me a deadhead in the 1980s? Like, was it a social thing? Was I inherently drawn to this? Were there people that I wanted to emulate that made me try to learn to like that music? Wild stuff. Drugs. Never inhaled.
All right, nicely done. Let's open up for questions here. I mean, this is about social music, so it'd be wrong of us to just hog the mics the whole time. Here, we've got one over here.
Hi, I've been using quite a lot of the different social services surrounding Spotify WIMP, which is out in Norway. But I have yet to see movie services using the same aspect of social, social stuff. How come music is so much more involved with the social?
I mean, so
social
stuff. My reaction to that is definitely that music is a very, very social, but I think movies is too as well. So Netflix, Hulu, they kind of fall into this bucket, to this category. There's smaller startups like Pre-Screen and some other folks that are actually doing and leveraging kind of the same tools that Billy and that MOG and those folks are leveraging right now to take advantage of our social distribution channels. If you're in the United States, you won't see, for example, the Netflix stuff rolling through your news feed just because they haven't launched in the US, right? But if you're in the UK, or you're in Canada, or you're down in LatAm, you'll actually see stories like Ime is watching Breaking Bad on Netflix. So this is actually happening. You go to netflix.com in those territories too as well, and kind of the first road they give you, instead of it being kind of the Netflix algorithm that they touted for so long, is actually a social road. It's like, here are what your friends are watching across Facebook, and here's perhaps some video discovery you can do through them. Or, oh, here are like your 5 closest friends, drill down to what they've been watching on Netflix recently. So it's happening. You're going to start to see more traction. Like I say, Vivo got more aggressive on Thursday, and that's kind of a hybrid between the video space and also the music space. But people are doing this.
To me, part of it is like if you're listening to MOG, your eyes are, you're not using your eyes, so you can be looking at a screen, and I think part of it's just that. But for sure, video is a big part of music these days too, and obviously other interfaces that are exciting too. Any other questions? What are we doing here? Over here?
I have one probably more directed towards David than anybody else, but isn't windowing in music like the movie window inevitable? I mean, as I know, David, you mentioned something that you felt that it hurt sales of some of the major bands that are opting out, but ultimately, it doesn't seem to me that the band's managers, especially the major artists, even Adele is not available, her total album is still on Spotify. Is it your sense that that will change? And does it in fact hurt your service when most people don't even know a new record is out for, and I'm talking about average people, know that a new record is out for 6 to 8 weeks?
I think there's a lot of confusion around these services and how they work. Out of every $10 subscription on MOG, the labels are getting roughly 60 to 70%. So $6 to $7 out of every $10 subscription. I think the average iTunes consumer is spending about $3.12 a month, of which the labels are getting 60 to 70%. So, it's pretty obvious which one is a better model for the music industry, from my perspective and from the labels that I work with. I think some of the challenges have to do with contracts and deals that individual artists have done with their labels that maybe need to get sorted out. But at a high level, everyone should be benefiting a lot more from this model than from the singles purchase model. Really, this is like the new bundle. There was the LP, which was a bundle. There was the CD, and the singles kind of download market really destroyed that. This is really bringing it back in a way that has never existed. Not only is it a bundle, but it's a $10 bundle that consistently generates that dollar amount month after month from a consumer.
I definitely need the microphone because I've lost my voice. I've got a couple of questions. I live in London, so I haven't actually had a chance to use any of your services. I've heard great things about turntable.fm, so first of all, just wondering if there's any plans to bring it to the UK or globally?
Yeah, absolutely. Just yesterday we announced that we have now direct licenses with all the 4 major record labels. And that was the first step that we needed to do to bring the service international. So hopefully, it's a slow process because now we have to go and turn it on in every single country and work with the rights holders on a country-by-country basis. But getting that first step done, which is a big first step, paves that way. And so hopefully we'll be turning that on very soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I guess the second question is more for Facebook. It's like music discovery can come from anywhere, you know, sometimes it's from a news article, sometimes it's from a friend playing Spotify, sometimes, you know, if you're following all these artists, they're putting up stuff on SoundCloud, especially, you know, mentioning that, you know, most of the Facebook interaction is with mobile these days. It's just, how can you bookmark that? I find it really difficult to be able to track. It's the news feeds going through so quickly. It's like, I wish there was a way that I could just be able to curate that to listen at another stage. Because sometimes it's just that random time of the day when someone pops something up that you listen to it while you're at your desk working. Just wondering if there's anything that's going to be coming out with Facebook with that.
No, so I mean, our product people are always working hard to bring new features to the service. This problem exists, of course, in music, as you mentioned and highlighted, but actually more exists in video. So you can imagine, you don't want your boss to be saying that you're watching Breaking Bad in the middle of the afternoon. Whereas if you were watching, or you're listening to a song on, you know, MOG or whatever it may be, that's fine, right? You're probably working while you're listening to music. But the idea of queuing something so you can have it for later when you can actually go and consume it is actually a powerful thing that, as you mentioned, I think we need to take serious about.
Cool, thank you.
That would be neat, like an alert on the mobile. Without before the integration we talked about that might happen. You know, I want to watch this right when I walk in the door. I would use that.
I thought you were going to say you should have he's not working alert. You know, it's an app on Facebook. Crawls for that.
I can tell if I'm not working if I'm listening to hip hop. I cannot work with that many words coming at me. I can't do it. So I shouldn't even talk about that. I think we have time for a couple more over here, maybe, and then over here.
Hi, I have 2 jobs. In my day job, I work for a nonprofit that's about the largest nonprofit in the world by some standards, and I'm kind of a sustainability geek for them. And I've spent the last 3 or 4 years going around to different product makers, trying to explain to them how the definition of what a quality product is has changed now. And it has to have, you know, quality product has to have a deep engagement with transparency around how it's created, how that company operates, some sort of awareness and a progression towards sustainability. And so in my nighttime job is trying to help the music industry also recognize that the definition of what a quality artist is and a quality label and management company is also changed, and having a component of some sort of corporate social responsibility for your brand as an artist, the charities that you care about, or even as a corporation, the charities you care about, is something that is going to be a necessary part of what you do, because it's part of how people are distinguishing among the shoes they buy, the shirt they buy, the food, the car, everything that we buy now. It's kind of part of how we decide. And so my question is do you think it's a valuable way to differentiate about within music? That you could actually take this giant slice and you say, you know what, actually I only want to hear from the music where people are deeply engaged in this and helping in some way than just themselves. Like, I want an iTunes that has all the songs on there, that are doing something good in the world, because if they don't have that component, then they're not actually, where I want to be. Or does it really not matter? Like, if the song is kick-ass, it doesn't matter if the money's going to something horrible. If it's a really good music, like, that differentiation really wouldn't matter in this sector. And I'm just trying to get a feel for, first, as corporations, is it a big part of the way you operate? Do you think about it? And then do you think it's a valuable differentiation in music and among music in general?
I'll let the music people answer that one.
Let me see if I can rephrase your question. Are you saying, do people want a filter that only plays music from artists that are socially responsible?
Yeah, do you think consumers actually care about that? caring about it now with music at all?
Some probably do. Some do. I mean, I imagine there are people who care about it, but I'm not sure that with my limited engineering resources that it would boil up to be important enough that I would task them to focus on it. I don't even know how you would measure something like that. The level of social awareness of an artist relative to another artist.
24/7 YouTube.
Yeah, it's just YouTube.
There's also, I mean, you'll never see digital music in a landfill, so there's that, right? I mean, the whole thing is a little bit socially conscious as a movement in general, I think.
It's true.
Well, how much of the library is going towards
MOG's green, you don't.
nonprofit? I mean, how much of that music goes towards a nonprofit cause rather than just, you know, like how much of that is something that we're there?
I don't think most people will choose the music they listen to in the same way. Would you only go see movies that are doing that right? Yeah. I think what there is an opportunity though is when you have that movie that is conscious about some big issue, or there's an artist that is very tuned into, like 90% of the proceeds of this album are going to go to this cause, things like that. I think there's definitely an opportunity to promote that artist and bring them to the top. I don't think it's ever a thing that I only want to listen to that music. That's going to be a much smaller part of the population.
It's interesting that, you know, when it comes to products like your toothpaste or whatever, people seem to care, but when it comes to entertainment, all that kind of rationale gets thrown out the window, for better or worse.
It can even work against artists or movie stars to take stands on social issues. I don't know, I've seen that happen in the media a couple times. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, one more.
One more? All right.
I actually want to ask a little bit about leveraging channels. Two things that you guys said, that you got most of your subscribers by partnering with the car industry, and then also what you said about individuals. It's not just about listening to what your friends, but other people. How are you going to integrate brands and as sponsors and advertisers, and then leveraging their networks to help drive more subscriptions, more listens, more sharing? Does that make sense?
I think for serious, certainly on the music side, one of our differentiators is that we're commercial free. So again, we're a premium service, so we don't want to interrupt, you know, a subscriber listening to our channels. We work quite closely with artist brands, so we have a Springsteen channel, a Sinatra channel. You know, we have pop-up channels around maybe events or talent and so forth, but it's really driven from the talent first, as opposed to, you know, we have brands coming to us all the time wanting to leverage, you know, the subscriber base that we have for promotions, and we're very careful about that, you know, putting our subscriber first and the programming first.
I mean, we've definitely, in fact, South by was one of the first events that we did, where we did partner with Pepsi and Intel to both do contests online and bring people here to South by. We have somebody who won a DJ contest that actually played during our party on Saturday. We're flying somebody here for our party on Thursday. We're throwing this huge party, which you should all attend, by the way. It's going to be amazing.
Everyone here is going to get in.
Come on by. It's such a big venue. We have 2,000 people, so hopefully we'll have room. So I mean, it's definitely, you know, obviously there's by involving them, there's that sponsorship. It helps us actually pay for what's going on, and there's always been that kind of collaboration between brands and music and products that want to have that integration. And I think it leads to cool opportunities for people by giving them those social aspects. As far as the curation of the music and things like that, you want to make sure, you want it to feel legit. You want it to feel like it's coming from the community, like you said, from like these are professional curators, and you don't want to feel like there's a price put on you're listening to this song because somebody paid enough to have you listen to it. So it's it's a balance you have to find.
I'll chime in. So yeah, our subscribers also get a commercial-free experience, but our freemium version is ad-supported, and we're constantly working on new ways with our sponsors to help together drive people into the service. So we've got a sponsorship right now with Walgreens, where depending on what you buy at Walgreens, there's actually a MOG promotion on your receipt that drives you to MOG.com. We've done ones with Starbucks, where Starbucks is giving away free subscriptions, some other exciting ones we're working on.
All right, well, I think we're out of time, but I think one thing we can agree on, it's a great time to be a music fan. It's a great time to run a music service with these new social connections. And I can't wait to see what each of you does next. So thanks so much.